You will find that most serial killers are motivated by mental illness, childhood trauma, and even religion. All these factors can be found in men, but also women. Here is an in-depth discussion of some of the most notorious female killers. Aileen Warren. Her mother gave birth to her when she was 16, in 1954. Aileen never met her father, or when she was born, he was in jail. He was incarcerated for kidnapping and sexually assaulting a little girl. Soon after his imprisonment, her parents were divorced. Her mother must have found the pressure to be too much, and Aileen and her brother were abandoned. They were left with their alcoholic grandparents. Her grandfather would often beat and sexually assault her. He also sold her off to his friends for cigarettes and drugs. Her parents would soon kick her out at the age of 15. Aileen would be homeless and found herself living in the woods, making a living as a prostitute. Before murder, Aileen racked up an impressive criminal record, several being DUIs, assault, and even armed robbery. Her first murder was Richard Mallory. They were in a secluded area for sexual favors, but he was found shot several miles away from his abandoned car. Aileen claimed she killed him in self-defense, and it wasn't hard to believe considering he'd been convicted of a sexual assault just 2 days prior. Aileen did this to 6 other men. She would offer them sexual services in exchange for money. She would then have them drive to a secluded area in the woods. Here, Aileen would kill these victims, sometimes with their own weapons. She would steal their car and dump it in another city. Although Aileen claims they were all done in self-defense, some theories as to what her actual motivations could have been money for drugs. She got into drugs at a young age. She also ended up robbing all of her victims, including stealing their car and pawning their belongings. This theory has the most supporting evidence to back it up, considering she ended up spending her brother's life insurance money rather quickly and irresponsibly. Aileen was caught and arrested in 1991. The police caught her with the help of Aileen's girlfriend, Tyra Moore. Tyra Moore contacted the police and agreed to help them get a confession out of Aileen. She knew of Aileen's killings and at first believed it was out of self-defense. That was until it continually happened. After many trials, as to which Aileen pleaded guilty and acted in self-defense, she racked up a total of 6 death sentences. Aileen was executed by lethal injection in 2002. Dorothea Putin. Dorothea was born to 2 alcoholic parents. She was repeatedly beaten by her father, who died when she was just 8. Her mother lost custody to all her children just a year later. Dorothea was sexually assaulted in the orphanage in which she was placed. She was married at 16 and left her husband when she was just 18. Before her first murder, she was charged with 2 counts of forgery for using forged checks, to which she pleaded guilty. After heavily drinking herself into the hospital, she was diagnosed as a pathological liar. She opened a boarding house when she was 46, but she portrayed herself to be much older. She was later convicted for illegally cashing 34 of her tenants' checks. Her first kill ended up being Ruth Monroe, a tenant at this boarding home, who supposedly overdosed on a heavy amount of drugs. Dorothea would accept tough cases from social workers and played it off as though her tenants would run away. In actuality, they were buried in her back garden. In order to bury them, she would give them drugs until they overdosed. Unlike Aileen, there was no debate as to what her motivations were. Her motivations were purely money motivated. She would continue to cash her disappeared tenants' checks without the worker taking care of them. Dorothea was arrested in 1988 and convicted of only 3 murders. The other 6 went undecided. She was sentenced to life without parole and throughout her sentence claimed to be innocent. She claimed that all her natural tenants died of natural causes. Judias Buonaana. Judias was sent to live with her grandparents after her mother's death when she was only 4 years old. Shortly after her father remarried, she was sent to live with him. During this time, she was abused and starved. When she was 14, she fought back and was imprisoned for attacking her father and stepfamily. The only criminal record Judias attained before her first murder was imprisonment when she was 14. She got married to her first victim, James Goodyear, who was originally believed to have died from natural causes. She next killed her terminally ill son. She took him out to the canoe, and when the canoe flipped over, he drowned due to his heavy braces. She married 2 more times, both husbands dying in unusual ways, one being poisoned and the other being in a car explosion. John Gentry was not killed in the car explosion, however, and was left severely injured. Upon further investigation, it was revealed that all of Judia's victims were killed by arsenic, including her son Michael. She gave them this poison by disguising them as vitamins. Just taking a look at this case, it may be hard to determine the motivations behind all these killings, or even if there is one at all. Some may say that she killed her son out of convenience, But where does that leave the murders of her husbands? It turns out that money was once again the motivation. After every single death, Judice received life insurance payouts. Judice was caught and convicted of 2 murders and an attempted murder. It was also at this time that she was found to have been convicted of multiple counts of grand theft auto for the purposes of insurance fraud. She was on death row in Florida and was executed by electric chair in 1998.